Hello, friends. I'm Kathy Fay, Executive Director of the Boston Early Music Festival, or BEMF, and I'm delighted to welcome you to this very special pre-concert talk preparatory to the upcoming performance of our 2023-2024 concert season. Before I introduce our two guests, let me just say that all of us at BEMF are thrilled to be presenting the BEMF debut of Gemelli in a program titled A Room of Mirrors, featuring a duo of ideally matched tenors and 8 instrumentalists. Tenors Emiliano Gonzalez Toro and Zachary Wilder will perform a selection of truly beautiful songs and duets of the early Italian Baroque repertoire, accompanied by an instrumental ensemble comprised of harpsichord, harp, organ, theorbo, Baroque guitar, violas da gamba, and violin. Lauded by Opera News as a perfect jewel of a program, A Room of Mirrors takes place on Saturday, November 18th at 8 p.m. in Boston's glorious Jordan Hall at New England Conservatory of Music, and includes works by Monteverdi's successors, D'India, Frescobaldi, Marini, Castello, Turini, and many others. As part of the annual BEMF concert series at the Morgan Library and Museum in New York City, this program will also be presented on Thursday, November 16th at 7:30 p.m. Tickets for the Boston performance by Gemelli are still available and can be purchased online by visiting the BEMF website at bemf.org or by calling the BEMF office at 617-661-1812. For those unable to attend our performance in person on Saturday, November 18th, virtual tickets are on sale as well. Our virtual presentation premieres on Saturday, December 2nd at 8 p.m. and will be available for a 2-week period through Saturday, December 16th at 11:59 p.m. It is my pleasure to introduce Emiliano Gonzalez Toro and Zachary Wilder, who have prepared a veritable musical feast for those of us lucky enough to attend this performance on Saturday, November 18th. And we're looking forward to hearing them talk a bit more about their inspiration for this program. So with that, I will now disappear from the screen and turn the microphone over to Emiliano and Zachary. Thank you for watching this pre-concert talk, and I look forward to seeing you on Saturday, November 18th.
Thank you so much, Kathy, for the introduction, and thank you to the entire Boston Early Music Festival team for having us. We're really looking forward to joining you guys very soon. So we're going to talk a little bit about the program and how it became and some of the pieces. Let's start at the beginning. How did we end up meeting in the beginning, and then how did the project become born?
Actually, Zach and I met for the first time many years ago. He was doing a competition, and I immediately knew that he was going to become one of the main tenor in Baroque stuff. So he always stayed in my mind, and somehow we started to sing together in some project, but the main one was the Marian Vespers of Monteverdi. And I don't know for you, Zach, but I felt immediately like it's my bro, it's my brother in voice, as I could say, and I could feel Zach feeling the same things as I do, and seeing and feeling this music almost in the same kind of way. So we started this project together to sing, and then somehow Gemelli is born. And I always kept in my mind that we wanted to do Orfeo and other projects, and also the fact that Zach came to sing in our Orfeo. I immediately knew I wanted to do something with him. And so we talked with Mathilde. Mathilde is my wife and co-director of Gemelli. And then we came to Zach to talk about this project, Room of Mirrors. We didn't know the name of the project yet. So with that, we started to work a bit on a program of duets together. And during summer 2020, we wanted to record this. And sadly, just after the big coronavirus period, I could not sing anymore because I was tired after a big recording, and then we had to postpone the recording. And so we used this time, Zach and I and all the team of Gemelli, to rethink the entire project, because at the beginning of the work with Zach, we started to think about one program, but in the end, it became something totally different. And so it's been built during a week of workshops and talks, and also how to connect all this music of 17th century music, Italian music, with Monteverdi, but without Monteverdi. I mean, it's all around Monteverdi, connected always with him, but he's never there. So that was kind of the challenge to do this kind of project, because of course with that we're gonna record the book 8, book 7, many other stuff of the project. But in the end, I wanted to have a shot also to create sort of a new way of working with him. And that's how, to me, maybe you can add some stuff or correct me, Zach, how it became a room of mirrors.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first met you in the Marian Vespers with Raphael Pichon. It was, you know, you do meet people in your life and in your career where you connect with them immediately musically, as a sort of like family member almost. And so
Yeah,
and you could really feel the other person across, and especially in the Monteverdi Vespers where we're singing in duo the entire time, and hearing each other and responding, and it's just this really fun moment that we had together. And yeah, I think it was a real eye-opening moment for both of us, that we needed to sing together more,
yeah,
and that we really enjoyed each other's vocal company. And I think that that moment when that we had to shift the recording session to basically a workshop was a very transformative experience, because and we could talk a little bit about actually like how we work in the ensemble, because it was a moment where, Fulvio Bettini and Mathilde really came in, and we were able to, Fulvio working with the continuo section was sort of a really interesting experiment that paid off.
yeah,
And you ended up using it a lot, and we use it now for every project, for the
yeah.
Ulysses and for the other stuff, because
I
yeah.
mean, that's true. And actually, that's kind of new in our working process. I do not know. I mean, I did not work yet with another ensemble that could use a Italian coach, but not only for voice, but also for the continuo. Because
Mm-mm.
as we do not work with somebody conducting in the way everybody imagine and know, like somebody conducting with the hands, or what we call also maestro al clavicembalo. There is no maestro al clavicembalo in Gemelli, and so every singer has to be responsible for everybody.
Mm.
And not only singers, but also the continuo should also somehow listen to the singers, and also somehow guide and give some information to them for us to, I mean, for us singers to be also able to sometimes wait or accelerate or also work together. It's kind of a teamwork. And that was a premiere, I think, for us, that Fulvio during this workshop session week stepped in and started to work the pronunciation, the prosody, and also how to pronounce all the words for the continuo. Because of course, if they know how to pronounce it, then of course they might follow us much easier.
Mm.
It seems so logical afterwards that actually, if the continuo knows how the rhythm, how we pronounce, how we sing the rhythm of the words, then it gives them a lot of information before even to start to sing. And I think this work now is kind of the sound of Gemelli, because of course now they used to it. They know they have all the translation on the scores, all the important words, where to put what, how to improvise on some parts. And this has been kind of created in this Room of Mirrors workshop during this September 20 moment when I could where I could not sing. So in any case, it was helpful.
Yeah, and to have this luxury also, I mean, we went something through like 50 pieces at that time, just to find the ones that really spoke to us and went together. Because some pieces that we thought originally were going to be absolutely on the disc, when we actually started working them through, we decided, this is not as good as this other one that we weren't so excited about before. And
Yeah.
but it's true. We're also totally in duet all the time with the continuo section. The continuo section meaning, the harpsichord, the harp.
Lute,
We've
Yorbo,
got theorbo, arch lute, and also
Gamba.
the gamba, the cello.
Yeah.
Yeah, and them all having some sort of understanding of the text. You ask them to write the translations in, and we've all been on projects where maybe the continuo isn't so sure about what's going on, and so it can kind of feel a bit messy sometimes when
Yeah.
but in there, it's everything always just felt really precise after that moment. And Fulvio Bettini, who's our Italian coach and baritone in residence, he's got a really wonderful point of view, because
Yeah.
being a singer, he can, and being somewhat scientific about Italian, he has a very sort of pragmatic point of view about the language. So that's really nice. So yeah, so then the project, we ended up recording it a few months later.
Yeah, in January, also during pandemic, but second part of it.
Yeah.
It was nice. It was nice. We always spend a lot of time for our recordings. We spend almost a week, like 4 5 days of just recording, with 1 day or two of rehearsals again.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important now to take time to do things well. Today, of course, the market of the recording is kind of difficult. Pretty much nobody buys CDs anymore. Only big fans and only people who comes to the concert after the concert to get souvenir or to get something to remember or to feel. I mean, it's always like when you feel you have an emotion during a concert, then you want to get something to remember it at home.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, for us, it became quite important to not just record for recording. It is important that we take the time to do as much as we can to make any recording something special.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it was so important to me that we have, you and me, time also to rest, time to record, not to get, to rush and have to record, like, I don't know, 30 minutes, 40 minutes of music in a day, which is pretty much what the market imposed today. But to me, it makes no sense, because we're not doing music then. We're just like doing fast food music. I mean,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and having had the rehearsal, that workshop for something like a whole week,
yeah, a whole week.
and then able to digest it, it brought a whole. A lot of times the really good recordings are ones that have toured before they record, but we didn't have that luxury. But the workshop itself served as a lab for the rep, I feel. And could we talk a little bit about actually about the recording style? Because we actually record in a traditional studio with a recording engineer who has a lot of experience in sort of variety, jazz, pop, and classical. Can you talk a little bit about that sound world?
Yeah, actually, Benjamin Ribollet, our sound engineer, is someone I met for a totally different kind of recording before. Like a year and a half before this, we did a recording about Latin jazz project with about Violeta Parra meeting jazz with a band of amazing musicians, but just doing really Latin jazz stuff. And I immediately felt that he understood what I wanted for voices. It's always been kind of my frustration up until now, that to meet fantastic sound engineers, but that they could not get me really what I wanted. And as I am a former DJ, former Latin salsa DJ during my 20s, I did my own recording session, mix session, editing session myself, and I developed something I like to hear in voices.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I always felt that the voice is always behind the harpsichord or the instruments in most of the recordings in Baroque stuff. which I find a slightly bit of a pity.
Mm.
So when we worked in this Latin jazz project, I asked him immediately, would you like to do maybe some Baroque stuff? And he said, well, why not? And as he's not also only a sound engineer, he's also an amazing composer and many instrumentist. He can play many instruments. And so he's a musician, he knows. And when we talk about how the sound should sound, we can really feel that he knows what he's talking about.
Mm.
So I wanted something very produced, as you said, a studio project, because like this we can also artificially help some instruments to sound like probably in live they would not sound, like harp, theorbo, archilute, and I like the fact that during this recording, after the recording, we spend also a lot of time for editing and mixing.
Mm.
Like this, it helps also to show the listener what we want him to listen to,
Mm-hmm.
which is important because how if you do not take care of this, it could sound with a lot of things, but you people will not listen what you want them to listen most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
They can listen to many other things, which is fine. But I like the fact that sometimes if harp is doing something in a word that is so beautiful that really, if you would not take it a bit in front of everybody,
Mm-hmm.
nobody would take conscience of it or would take care of it or would listen to it.
Mm.
And to me, it's kind of a very nice way also to show this music, the complexity, the simplicity, the groove, the melody, the intelligence of many instrumentists trying to also figure out all the words we are saying when they play with us, that it gives also what I think is a nice new way of doing this music.
Mm. Yeah, and I think also because the repertoire that we sing on this album is repertoire that would have been done in interiors inside of people's homes. People were on top of each other.
Yep.
You would be able to hear the harp, like, because the harp would be practically right here. And so I thought it was a really interesting decision in terms of even just talking like kind of sociologically speaking and historically speaking about the history of what this repertoire was used for as a sort of way for people to hang out and entertain each other and show off what they were good at, but in these smaller sort of home spaces. And speaking of the repertoire, we should get a little bit to the pieces. One of the big composers that's in the mix is Sigismondo d'India, who sort of is like a kind of mirror of Monteverdi, which is kind of where the name of the project kind of came from. Well, also all these other composers that were mirroring off Monteverdi. We have some wonderful pieces by him, a couple of solo pieces actually, the Giunto la tomba and also the Piangono del Pianger Mio. And then we have the duet of the Dialogo della Rosa,
Yeah.
as well as an instrumental duet, Langue al vostro languir.
Yeah.
And all four of those pieces are pretty interesting. There's I find that all four of them, there's a real very heavily emotional element to that's the very emotional core of the program, I would say.
Yeah.
And so there's those four pieces which sort of sit at the center of the program, and then I feel like the rest is sort of also kind of in response to that core. Would you say so as well, or?
I do, because actually it's one of my favorite composer in 17th century music, Italian, and actually is so related to Monteverdi. They talked about the same kind of worlds in the music. Like you say, the Dialogo della Rosa is really like Orfeo. It's a pastoral duet, really pretty much like the Pastori in Orfeo. And also then we have Langue al vostro languir. It's theoretically a tenor duet or a soprano duet. You can do both. And actually, we wanted also to give this moment to the gambas, because it seemed really important to show also how what says many of our instrumentalists like Josué Melendez or Rodrigo Calveira, who plays many often with us. They're specialists in corneto, and always they show us some old text saying that all the instruments in this period should imitate the voice. And actually, most of the musicians, instrumentalists, and composer at that time were singers. Pretty much everyone was first a singer and then playing theorbo, gamba, harp, or whatsoever. So I'm going in too many directions. Okay. What I wanted to do is that in this moment we show how an instrument could play like a singer and say the words, but in playing sounds, which is part of the work they did with Fulvio Bettini. They would pronounce languel vostro languir, which is lam bam bam baram bam. And also, if an instrument can show how it imitates the voice, then it makes sense. And to us, it was kind of also a fil rouge to show that in between all the pieces, there is always a balance going into something dramatic, something fun, something nice, something pretty, something fast and difficult. And also, Piangono al pianger mio and Giunto alla tomba are two moments for us, for both of us, to sing, also to show, because we have, you and me, some funny moments vocally. We can play fun, or act fun, or sing fun, but also moments I wanted us to show the beauty of the color of our voices. And those moments are for that. And the Piangono al pianger mio is really something, one of the most amazing piece of D'India. And to me, it makes so much sense that you could sing it with only a theorbo. Then you have also the essence of it. And it's kind of already preparing for Orfeo. You know, like Tu sei morta, it's kind of, it gives the same ambiance. And Giunto alla tomba is related to combattimento, obviously, because after you have also D'India combattimento. The last part of combattimento has been composed by also D'India on the same text as Monteverdi. And he composed the next moment after the fight when Tancredi goes into the grave and cry in front of the grave of Clorinda, which is so gorgeous and so interesting, because I didn't know this piece very well before this recording. I listened to it sometimes, but it never came to my attention. It was so amazing. And so also you could feel that these pieces have been composed for some singers. And you can definitely feel that Francesco Rasi had a huge influence on all this period, because all the coloratura are so close and similar to Possente Spirito for you and for me, that it makes so much sense that he was around every time those pieces were composed, because they were thinking about him. We have no proof. He was the one who did them for the first time. But you definitely feel the influence of Francesco Rasi and his ability to make a lot of coloratusa and low register, high register, many kind of different colors. And that's, to me, was the kind of reflection around Sigismondo d'India in this album, guiding us to getting close to Monteverdi, but without having to go into Monteverdi.
Yeah, and just for reference, Francesco Rasi was the singer who and composer who premiered Orfeo as the original Orfeo. Yeah, and I think that all of the pieces have been picked as sort of a catalog of affects, but also of different techniques and that we as singers have to kind of go through, but also even different types of genres that a lot of them were created by Monteverdi, or at least made popular by him. We can talk specifically about sort of the big hit of the album, Damigella tutta bella, or the big pop song.
Alestani is one.
Yeah, which has that same Galliard rhythm from Vi ricorda.
It's the same.
It's the same rhythm, and the text was a text that Monteverdi had also set before.
Yeah. He used it also, for his own Damigella tutta bella. It's the same text, and I don't remember it.
Yeah.
great.
Oh, whoops. Well, there's like something like 23 verses anyway, so
Yeah,
it's
it's kind of the same.
we
But
could that's
yeah, it, it's a hit. It's
yeah.
like a pop song. It's like a
Yeah,
pop,
so
like Vi ricordo Boschi Ambrosi.
exactly.
And I mean, all this music influenced the all the history of music for centuries.
Hmm.
So we pretty much didn't invent anything better than this, and then we just developed it and modified a bit. But the drinking songs, chansons à boire, are pretty much all the same during centuries.
Yeah, and what's also interesting though, I mean, we a lot of these different influences. There's one piece that's really strange, which is the Dove ten vai, which is on a text from Orfeo from the Striggio,
Yeah.
but it's in a duet rather than a solo. So it's this really weird. It's almost like the echo is in the room with Orfeo at the moment.
It's true. That's true. And that's what amazed me so much when we started to read it for the first time, and also the ending going into this very incredible pianissimo Si fuggito dolcissima speranza, di fuggito, si
Hmm.
fuggito dolcissima speranza. It started, it's pretty much very dramatic, and then it like vanish
Yeah, it
almost.
disappears at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
so there's this piece that references Orfeo and sort of kind of an Apollo, kind of like the end, but also in that weird moment in Act Four, and no, that's in Act Three, the with
Dove te ne vai?
Speranza. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's the moment where when Orfeo goes into the inferni, the
Mm-hmm.
hell to hell, and guided by Speranza, by hope,
Mm-hmm.
and hope when they arrived at the door of the inferni, just says, "Well, now you don't need me anymore, so I go." And so he's alone and doesn't know what to do, and so he's despair. He has no hope anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, "Where are you going? Why do you leave me alone here?" So that's kind of the moment of this Dovet and Vi. Where are you going?
Yeah, so we have the Dove ten vai. We also have the well, there's the big Chacon by Gregory,
Yeah.
and that comes later in the program, but it really feels like a throwback to Zefiro Torna.
Torna. It starts pretty much the same.
Yeah,
But what I wanted also is that in this moment, this Minon di Sciolgasi is pretty much very tough because it feels like the beginning is extremely comfortable because Zefiro Torna is not about coloratura. It's just Zefiro Torna pam param param pam pim bam dida 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 dum pam pam. All the coloraturas in Zefiro Torna are pretty short. It's kind
yeah.
of an easy piece. I mean, nothing easy, but it has to look easy. But this minor Sciolgasi, if we take it a slightly bit too fast, then we're almost extremely in difficulty at the end because it goes and goes, and the coloratures are becoming more and more long. And it starts to become pretty much of a challenge to start in a good tempo and feeling a bit like it's a bit too comfortable at the beginning, but
Hmm.
then it becomes more and more challenging till the end. So yeah, it's obviously so much related to Zefiro Torna to me.
Yeah, I mean the text is very kind of similar as well, and it's sort of a pastoral love
Yeah,
element, but it is true that we have done a couple concerts where we were a little excited, and then the tempo starts, and we're like we start sweating as the piece goes on. But yeah, it's a very virtuosic piece, and that's sort of the very one of the more virtuosic sets of coloratura I think
yeah.
I've ever sung.
It demands quite a lot, huh?
It's
Uh,
immense.
it is challenging, but and that's why we put it at the end because like this, we're done with the
Well, also
main
when you have
big
to end
stuff.
with a bang too, because
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
really
It's a collective,
massive.
so, and it's kind of a hit too. So to finish the concert, it's really nice.
Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, and then also we have some other pieces. I do a comic piece, character piece, La Vecchia, which
Vecchia
is written by
Innamorata.
Marini, who also had major connections to Monteverdi. You do Se Laura Spira at some point, which
Yeah,
is a very famous piece.
yeah.
But then there's also
And
some
we
other
use
instrumentals.
for Stella Raspira we use how do you, Folia hecha para mi señora,
Yeah.
the instrumental piece, we use it sort of an introduction of Se la Respira,
Hmm.
which is fun because of course it's the same kind of music.
Yeah, it's the Folia harmony that's
Yeah,
underneath.
one is for Falconieri and the other one for Frescobaldi, but they pretty much fit into the other one. So it's kind of logical to do that kind of connections and singing this piece after this instrumental makes a lot of sense.
Hmm. Yeah, it's really the way that the program kind of falls into each other, but especially with the way that the instrumental pieces are folded in, it makes total sense. And is there certain so there's certain techniques also that we are showcasing in the program. So we have sort of lyricism, Lambert lyricism. We have kind of the sort of combattimento concertante
Yeah.
style. We have this virtuosic coloratura. We have some of the more dramatic. We have comic. So the
And
whole
then we
program.
have the pianissimi.
Yes.
I mean, people mostly they don't know maybe, or they don't imagine that. I mean, this music sounds like Mozart. Mozart, you listen to any Mozart, it sounds so easy.
Hmm.
The music sounds easy to play, the flute, oboe, piano, whatever.
Hmm.
Singing sometimes does not feel so easy to sing, but somehow it feels like easy listening music, Monteverdi and this kind of music too. But to make it look easy demands a lot of effort. And also, it's the kind of way of singing. The virtuosity is not always like singing loud and high or low. It's how you say the words, how the public, how the people can understand what we say. And the virtuosity is also the fact that we can speak the words and sing the words in a way that everybody can understand, even though they do not speak Italian.
Hmm.
And that's kind of the big challenge. That there is plenty of ornamentation, but one of the main one that people pretty much do not know is the gracia. And gracia is what Zach and I we do together many times. It's the way of sometimes to do ornamentation without doing ornamentation. Sometimes starting a slightly bit behind the beat, sometimes doing a crescendo, decrescendo, opening a voice, closing it. It's definitely a way to show how you understand the text, and that makes the people and the audience understand everything we say, even though most of them probably do not speak Italian fluently.
Mm.
So it's kind of this is the kind of challenge we like to do in this music to make it looks easy. It's what we call also la sprezzatura. It demands kind of a lot of work, but when you do it in front of public, it looks obviously natural and like we've done this so easily forever.
Hmm.
But it's a tiny work to do, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, and you mentioned the word sprezzatura, which is sort of a very central idea of how we perform this music, and it comes from Castiglione's guide to being a courtier, basically, how to act like cool in court life, and but make it seem like it's no effort. And
Yeah,
you know, Caccini took it and put it in the intro to his book, saying, but he kind of changed the meaning of it, saying that we perform the text by swinging it within the tactus. So instead of, if you're taking Monteverdi's Ecco di dolci raggi, you can, if you were to do it as it's written, it's Ecco di dolci raggi il sole armato. But if you want to swing it, you go Ecco di dolci raggi il sole armato, and
yeah,
it floats sort of on top of this tactus feeling, and then on top of that, the sort of singing in a way that singing something very virtuosic and difficult, but not showing your hand, is the sort of twofold element to sprezzatura, and I think that we aim to do that, and I think
yeah.
most of the time successful, except if maybe the Gregori goes a little too fast. Um, then we're like,
Well, it's also nice to show sometimes the effort, but
oh,
not
for
every
sure,
time.
for sure, for sure. Um, That's wonderful. I had just a couple of small questions. I asked on the internet for some people to send in their questions,
Yeah.
and I had two questions that I picked out. The first one is being two tenors. How does that work?
It's the easiest way to work. Uh, I most of my big friends are tenors, and we can work very well together.
Hmm.
I barely have no bad feelings or enemy or problems with my tenor colleagues. It's kind of a miracle. I think everybody knows that this job for us is kind of difficult, and how to deal with all our technical problems. So everyone is kind of pretty much kind and nice and tolerant and also forgiving, uh, because we all struggle sometimes.
I mean, we're on a
So,
project with like seven tenors currently,
well,
also with the Return of
Ulisse
Ulysses.
requires 7 to 9 tenors. It depends the version you want to do. So of course, you need to to like everyone and to create a good ambiance. And actually, this Ulisse tour started last month, and it's a very nice ambiance. Everything is
Mm.
fine.
And then the last question we have, was there any other plans for other tenor duo albums?
Well, I said it at the beginning, book
Hmm.
8, book 7, but this requires a lot of time and a lot of money. So
Yeah.
we need to find the funds to be sure to have time to do that well. Because as I said at the beginning of this moment together, I don't want to rush it. If we work on book 8, we definitely need time because this is a very long book.
It's massive.
That's at least a three CD. And as you know, we've done this release in 23 days of studio. Imagine for book 8 might be kind of the same. So it's
Absolutely. I mean, it's
budget.
such a massive undertaking. It's so much
Yeah,
music. So
yeah.
that makes total
Many
sense.
configuration also, but that's the probably one of the main project in the future. And as a smaller project, we might work in some Italian Jew music, maybe as a pre information, like this, a scoop.
You heard it here first. Well, excellent. So I think this concludes our chat. Thank you, everybody, so much. Thanks, Emiliano. Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Boschley Music Festival. We're really looking forward to seeing you very soon.
Yeah, very soon.
Alrighty.
Bye bye.